Okay. Testing. Okay. Testing. Cool, I can hear myself. Cool, I can hear. All right. Hey there, good afternoon, fans. No, God. Gross. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to another SHADOWBOX development stream. My name is Benjamin Moeller. I'm the creator of this free virtual museum software that we're going to be looking into today. The link to download this for free on Steam is in the description of this video. It is currently in beta testing for the Windows platform. I promise we are working on getting it available for other platforms, Mac and Linux, hopefully here in the medium future. We're working on it. But today I'm showing off the new update 2.3.0. As per usual, you can always see the version history in the corner of the screen so that you know when you're watching footage which exact version of the game you're looking at. Wow, isn't that self-explanatory? I didn't need to say any of that. Today, this update includes actually 4 new exhibits, and I'm looking forward to going into what's in each of those. But in addition to that, there's a big performance boost that you should be noticing in this new update. So I play this on a 4K monitor on a pretty good PC that I build this software on. On the Steam page under the recommended hardware, you can see basically the specs of this PC that I build this program on and that I'm streaming it on right now. And this video is not in 4K, but the version I'm looking at right now is. So I managed to get about 170 frames per second right now, just running through the game at 4K, which is pretty good. But a lot of people running on older hardware, more lower end hardware, basically the more accessible basically PC components have been having obviously not 170 frames per second on 4K. So part of our continuing emphasis for these first couple of years of development is trying to get performance to be as good as possible to make sure that this is built from the beginning to run on a wide array of hardware. And then after that, increasing complexity and visual fidelity and things like that. So first of all, if you have ever played this game before, I would encourage you to download this update and try it again and just compare from what you experienced previously to what you're seeing now. I'm hoping that you see a really drastic improvement. Either way, please go to the Steam forums and just update us. Let us know what your hardware is and what your experience is playing in SHADOWBOX so that we can continue, working on this. This is not the final performance update, obviously. And in this version, there are 4 new exhibits that have opened. I kind of like the tradition I started last year with opening new exhibits roughly around when my birthday is. Last year it was early, this year it's late. So now that I'm freshly 27, I'm excited to show you guys some of the latest work I've been working on. This first exhibit, the Maquoketa Formation, is based in Missouri in the United States. Let's go ahead and teleport there. Welcome to the Maquoketa. And there is only one species that's unavailable that's emphasized here currently, but we've got several different examples of it, and it is a really cute little trilobite called Ampyxina bellatula. So here is, these are very small fossils. As per usual, you can see in the bottom left corner the scale of what you're looking at. You can rotate this object around and around if you want to see. The actual trilobite obviously is right here. and you can zoom in real close to get a look. And let's go ahead and test the Patreon page. First, I got to verify that I'm a human being. How humiliating. To access my own writing. I wrote this myself. Here we go. So, as is often the case, not always, but often the case, there are articles associated, free open access articles that are associated with each of these species that we're looking at. So if you'd like to learn a lot more about Ampexina, those articles are available. And this was a really fun exhibit to put together, a really fun article to research and to write. It's always great having multiple examples of the same species so you can get an idea for, you know, what individual variation looks like versus the things that are in common between all of the different specimens. So here's another one as well. This one actually has, there's the full trilobite right here, and then this is a partial, basically the tail piece. So trilobites have kind of three major parts. I think this one is probably one of the best examples. There's the cephalon, makes up the head portion, and the thorax in the middle, and the last piece is called the pygidium, that's the tail. So over here, what you're looking at is one complete trilobite, one complete Ampexina, and just the pygidium of a second one on this specimen. And this one, you have several, one of which is in really great shape. You've got another partial one down here. This looks like potentially part of the cephalon. Would be interesting to get really, really close up with those, but oops, just went into the lobby. Let's go ahead and pop back in. So you can see the loading times have been significantly improved. So what's cool about this Ampexina? So these are very small trilobites, and if we look really closely, right, at the cephalon, these are blind trilobites. There's no eye present anywhere on the cephalon. And it's the same. You can look at all of these different specimens of Ampexina, and you are not going to find eyeballs on any of them. So what's up with that, right? Ampexina, the trilobites in general, these are animals that have evolved to have eyes. So why does this group not have them? Why did they lose them? And between looking at the sedimentology, so the what you can learn about the depositional environment, the energy of wave action and that kind of thing, the depth of basically the habitat that these animals were living in, it would appear that actually Ampexina was living in an area in which, in a marine habitat where there was so much sediment in the water, there was so much not pollution, but there was so much murkiness in this habitat. They were feeding on, you know, particles of food that are being filtered through stuff that rains down from on high. But where they actually lived, you couldn't see anything anyway. And so blind trilobites are a really fascinating group, and they happen to have occupied places where having eyes would have given them no particular advantage because there's no light accessing, there's no visibility there anyway. So they don't need to look out for predators, they don't need to find their food with their eyes. They are just, you know, they're vibing down there. They're just picking up food as it comes. And here we are. This is approximately where Missouri was 445 million years ago. You can see, like, this is where the equator would be. So this is a, sort of probably a warmer seaway. And yeah, these were some really cool specimens to get to work with. So that's the Macocata Formation. We're going to go ahead and jump forward in time to the second exhibit. And this one is really special. So this was the first exhibit to open in the Ordovician crypt. So we now have continuity. You can jump from the Cambrian to the Ordovician to the Silurian. Here in the Silurian, we have just opened up our second exhibit, the Winnica Formation. It is from this region of Poland. I'm going to pay my respects to the people of Poland and not try to pronounce this. If someone would like to tell me how, I would be happy to listen. I'm not going to make an attempt. These are fossils of the oldest known vascular land plants, a genus called Cooksonia. And these are recovered from Poland. So let's take a close look at these. These are also not particularly large fossils. So I'm, as always, really happy to have gotten good scans of them at, good enough resolution that here on my 4K monitor, I can blow it up to be quite large, and you can make out, this is the plant right here. So let's look at this illustration that's provided by my partner in this project, also my partner in real life, has done an illustration of Cooksonia to help demonstrate kind of what you're looking at here. And it's in a fairly simple construction. So this is the ancestor to vascular plants. Include basically anything you would think of as being plants that doesn't include algae, which are not technically plants, things like mosses, liverworts, things like that. Vascular plants are trees and shrubs, grasses, anything with a flower, all of that stuff. Those are all from cycads to cocoa trees. These are all vascular plants, and these fossils, these are not the earliest known examples of Cooksonia, but they are among the oldest vascular land plants anywhere in the world, and the oldest known genus of vascular land plants. These are around 432 million years old. And at that time, basically the construction of these early vascular land plants is really simple. You have the sporophyte at the end of stems. There is a basic branching structure. There's the sporophyte, there's the branch there, and these are, again, vascular land plants. So as with animals, plant life began in the sea. It began in the marine realm, and they had to evolve to colonize the land. And so they start off with this very simple branching structure. They had to evolve basically a system to pump water to, first of all, stand up against gravity, because in the water you're not worrying about the weight of gravity. You're pretty well supported in the water column. So out on land, you have to have stronger structures to be able to actually stand up. Otherwise, you obviously crumple over. And then you also need to be able to pump water against gravity in order to get water into the cells at the tip of the sporangium, which is this organ. You can see it right here. And we can also zoom in on the inspection page as well. Right there is the full Cooksonia, and right there is the sporangium. We can pull up the article too. I should put the art piece on the article as well. That'd be a good idea. Fortunately, I can update the website pretty much instantaneously from my phone because it's just my Patreon page. And as per usual, all of the linked articles that are in SHADOWBOX should be open access. If you have encountered any that are locked, that say you need a subscription, please just reach out to me and let me know, because it's not my intention to make people pay to read articles for things that are put into SHADOWBOX. Everything in SHADOWBOX should be free to access, and so it's just a mistake on my part if it's still locked and unavailable for people without a PT Paleo subscription. So anyway, the sporangium is an organ that basically holds where the spores would go, so it's a reproductive structure. So this was a really cool species to finally include in SHADOWBOX, and I'll even demonstrate. This was something that was put into the previous update as well. If you want to jump directly into any exhibit, you can see them listed here in alphabetical order, so we can just teleport right into the Winnica directly from the main menu if you don't want to try and find it in the lobby, or if you're having loading issues in the lobby, right? So this is basically one of the most significant as far as like famous extinct plants. Cooksonia is the oldest, and it's definitely in the top 3 as far as the most famous. I would say that like Glossopteris is also one of those extremely famous, extremely significant fossil plant taxa, and we also have we do also have, if I might show off some previous work here, in the Dunedoo Formation, we also have Glossopteris. So there you go. And just for fun, again, here's a map. We've jumped into the future, into the Permian. Here's Pangaea, and this is where Glossopteris is in Australia 252 million years ago. We quit to the menu and go back to the Winnica. Travel backwards about, well over 150 million years. Planet's looking more like this. So we are again at 432. We're not all that much younger from where the Maquoketa Formation was. And this is where Eastern Europe would have been. And again, we're kind of in an equatorial position. So even though Poland obviously is quite a cold environment these days, at least seasonally, where Glossopteris, where Cooksonia was evolving, would have been in a quite warmly situated part of the world at that time. So this is the Winnica Formation. I'm really happy to open that up and let people explore that now. Ta-da! And then our third exhibit that recently opened, we can go ahead and jump forward just a little bit. This is the Onondaga Limestone. It's exposed in several different areas in the eastern portion of North America. All the fossils in this exhibit are in New York State. Let's go ahead and teleport there. In contrast to the Ampexina, the blind trilobites we were looking at earlier, this is Dalmanites, and this guy definitely has an eyeball. In fact, he's got big honkin' eyeballs, big compound eyes. You can see in the photo here, I've got the lenses in really good detail. And of course, on the scan as well, you can zoom in and get a good look at all the individual lenses in this compound eye. So this is Dalmanites. It's actually rolled up, kind of like a roly-poly. So the pygidium, that tail portion, is going to be down here somewhere. It's partially obscured by the matrix. This is the cephalon, and then the thorax is where it's folding. And yeah, that's Dalmanites. You can open up the article to learn more about it. But this is a fossil that is in a public collection at the University of Arizona, where I work and where I'm starting grad school in the fall. And when I came across this fantastic specimen with these beautiful eyes, I knew I had to scan it right away. And I knew that the Onondaga Limestone was one that I definitely had to open an exhibit on this so that I could have my Dalmanites on display. And going through those drawers of additional material, I managed to find several other fossils that come from the same deposit, including Paraspirifer. So these are some really nice brachiopod shells. Brachiopods are superficially kind of like clams, but they're actually from a completely unrelated. Nothing's unrelated in the tree of life, but these are a separate group. So phylum Brachiopoda. This is a different branch of the tree of life. The bivalves are in a completely different area. So while they are shelled and they look superficially similar, this is actually a unique and separate form of shelled animal life. So we've got these two really beautiful examples of Paraspirifer. As I've noted over here, we have other fossils of Paraspirifer that are in the Silica Formation exhibit, also in the Devonian, a fairly similarly aged exhibit. Rock deposits, again, were at 380 million years ago. We've moved forward in time a little bit. We're just offshore here. This is where eastern North America would be. And the Silica Formation, you're looking more at kind of what's now the Midwestern US and places like Ohio and Michigan. So a little bit further out to sea at that time is where those other Paraspirifer are. We also have this coral Heterophryntis. You can see all these different growth bands on this coral, which is really, really neat. This other one is a little subtle, but you can see the coral structures right here, these kind of tube-shaped fossils. And this is a separate, you can see over here. We kind of move it around. There's another piece of coral right there. That one's in really good shape. So that's Synaptophyllum. And just to give a little bit of information basically on, why I'm pursuing a PhD in the College of Information Sciences at U of A, is that, as a paleontologist, I know a lot about anatomy and evolution and geology and things like that, but an area that I feel I want to learn a lot more about because it's really relevant to how people are able to do paleontological research is in collections management, collections archiving, architecture, that kind of thing. And so this specimen, which again is part of a public collection at the University of Arizona, which has not been directly curated since before I was born, actually. It was officially shut down in 1996. This fossil, was in a drawer. It probably hadn't been touched in many years before I came across it. And actually the label called it Synaptophyllum. So in these old specimen labels, they are hand typed actually on a typewriter. That's how old some of these collections are. And there was a typo, it was missing the Y. So when I started looking up references on this species of coral, I couldn't really find anything. Because guess what? There really isn't anything called Snaptophyllum. I think I found one example of another place where that same typo has been made to call it Snaptophyllum. But it wasn't until I pulled out a big physical book, an old book on invertebrate fossils in North America, published in, I think, the 1950s, and I go flipping through the pages and I see a Synaptophyllum, and then I pull up that page, and turns out, yes, this is the same thing, there was just a typo. So part of what I'm going back to school to learn is how to, while I'm doing this work, looking at these collections, update that information, make sure that the legacy data is secured and preserved, even though in some instances it's actually erroneous. So you may hear in the years to come more opinions and stories about collections research in that way. So we've done 3 of our 4. We've done the Ordovician, we've done the Silurian, we've done the Devonian. The 4th and final new exhibit on display here in SHADOWBOX, and this latest, again, free. You can play this for free on Windows right now. The latest free exhibit that I've released is way younger. It's only about 10 million years old, and it is the first exhibit open in the Miocene crypt. And it is based in the Crimean Peninsula here in Eastern Europe, in the Kerch Basin. So let's go ahead and jump into that. We've got 2 fossils from the Kerch Basin. We've got this radius. This is a part of the forelimb of a seal called Monochopsis pontica. Again, let's go ahead and test my article. Sometimes while I'm doing these live reviews of what's new in the updates, I will find errors and then have to write them down and fix them later. This time it looks like everything is coming out the way that it should. So here's the article on Monochopsis, so you can learn much more about that if you would like. So we have the radius, this arm bone, and we also have this vertebra from Monochopsis. And there's a cool mini lesson here in paleobiology in that, again, this fossil, the scale in the corner there is 3 centimeters. This isn't a huge vert. Monochopsis was not a large seal. We're talking about something about 4.5 feet long, right? Not particularly huge. And for its vertebrae, it's extremely thick. You know, looking at similarly sized animals, you would not expect these structures here to be so thickened in that way, which is really, really interesting. I don't spend a ton of time looking at seal fossils, unfortunately, but the radius, my understanding here, this is also quite thickened for an animal this size. So what's going on with that? The answer is up here, but to basically use a map instead to kind of demonstrate this. At this time, 10 million years ago in the Miocene, Earth is looking pretty similar to the way it does today, right? You'll notice there's a few things different, right? The Arabian Peninsula is still connected to Africa. This whole portion of here of Southeastern Asia is different. There's no Isthmus of Panama yet, so North and South America are not physically connected. And one of the other weird things is that this sea basin here is not the Mediterranean yet. This is still... We still have not reached the Mediterranean. This region of the world has been occupied by a sea called the Tethys for a very long time. And now we are in the Paratethys, the Eastern Paratethys. And basically what's happening is that in this period of time where Monochopsis is alive, this basin has been cut off. So it was living in this region around here, and the basin was cut off from water flow. And so there's all this, sea that's been cut off, kind of like the Dead Sea, where there's evaporation happening. So water is being lost, but the salt in the sea is remaining. And so the sea basin in the Eastern Paratethys undergoes what paleontologists have called a salinity crisis. Basically, the salt concentration is getting extremely high. And one of the things that high salt in the water does is increase buoyancy. So again, just like in the Dead Sea, animals would have had a harder time actually sinking in the water. So if you're a diving predator like a seal, that represents a problem. And the solution that many different marine mammals and animals, like Monochopsis, what they evolved is these thick, heavy bones that basically assisted them in diving. So what we see in instances where you have high salinity in these closed-off ocean basins, there is a response in the fauna to have denser and thicker bones, which I think is just so fascinating. So all of these things are now available for players to enjoy in SHADOWBOX. Again, this is a free virtual museum. All you need is a Windows PC to play. You will not be charged for it. If you're playing this and someone else has charged you money for it, that is totally unauthorized. Please reach out to me at ptpaleo@proton.me and let me know about that. If you would like to support the project, I'm just going to go over to donor credits here. You can go to the Patreon, patreon.com/ptpaleo/shop, and purchase a one-time donation varying from $10, $20, $50, or $100. And you get your name here in the credits, and that money basically directly goes to continuing to have me produce this stuff. It's always free updates, but these donations help me actually get that work done, and it help covers software costs and expenses, travel expenses to go visiting collections to do this kind of scanning. I'm also going to point, we now have an artist credit. Brayton Brandis created the Cooksonia piece that is in the Winnica formation. To jump there again real quick. And I'm excited to say that I have begun reaching out to different artists about doing commissioned pieces for SHADOWBOX. If you are an artist who would love to have your art displayed for free in this exhibit, I'm doing commissions, and I will also accept art donations, but please contact me. Again, ptpaleo, that's PTPALEO, at proton.me. Just reach out to me and, share what you work on, what you're interested in. If there's an exhibit in SHADOWBOX with fossils that you find really interesting that you'd like to illustrate, just include that information too. And of course, keep in mind that I am working on so many different exhibits across all of these different time periods. I'm going to continue to be releasing new stuff throughout the year and hopefully for years to come. And there's always going to be a need for additional art and all different kinds of new cool stuff. So this is what's new in SHADOWBOX Beta 2.3.0, and I will hopefully have even more cool stuff to show to you next time. Thanks for watching.